necessary. The people who hurt my daughter, they did it intentionally, and they weren't punished enough. Chris got suspended, and it's a very serious topic, cyberbullying, because there are some cases where some kids commit suicide, some kids hurt themselves, and some kids, their self-esteem drops severely low. With this law, I hope that we would be able to protect future cyberbullying cases from occurring. We are for the cyberbullying law because it would make a huge difference in our children and in the way our children connect with each other. It would make it a lot safer, a lot less hatred online. People would just get along a little better, I would hope. This would make kids get scared of getting punished by saying mean things online. So they would kind of think twice before they say anything online. Our daughter, in this case, lost a lot of friends and a lot of confidence because of what happened to her. And you don't want this to happen to other kids, because there are cases where other kids lose confidence, lose a lot of friends, and it's just, cyberbullying is just another completely unnecessary thing, because kids can get hurt online, and sometimes the kids who go through the cyberbullying, they don't intentionally want to hurt someone's feelings, but the people, they don't understand exactly how they are because they're behind a screen, so you can't tell any real emotion. So cyberbullying is just a really risky case, because there's just no face-to-face contact, so you can't understand how someone really feels. So some person might make fun of a kid, but they can't tell if the kid can take it or not. So they won't know if a kid will, hurt themselves or kill themselves over it, because they can't see the kid how he's reacting right now. So that's why I believe the cyberbullying law is completely necessary.
So our first talking point is making cyberbullying criminal would make kids think twice about what they put online. Kids really don't know how bad it is until they see something happen to their friends, whether the kids get in trouble for it or someone does something because they're getting cyberbullied. They don't really understand what it can actually do to someone. And it also they wouldn't want this on their criminal records because they'll go on with them for the rest of their lives after high school.
And our second talking point is saying that this would make kids more comfortable about talking about this with their parents. The Hartford County Examiner reported that only 1 in 10 teens tell their parents if they have been a cyberbully victim. And if we make something criminal, then I feel that kids will be more comfortable talking about it with their parents, because if they tell on someone, then that person can actually have consequences to face. But if it's not criminal, it's just kind of like tattletaling, and then the other person will just get mad at them, but they won't suffer any consequences, so kids just don't tell. And it also said that only 1 in 5 cyberbullying incidents are reported to law enforcement. And also our daughter didn't want to tell us because she was afraid that we would take things into our own hands, but we'd prefer if she would have told us.
And for our third point, this is a very common problem and should be addressed to fix the community need. According to cyberbullying research, over 80% of teens use a cell phone regularly, making it a very, very popular form of technology, and it's common, so it will make kids easier to access the internet, make cyberbullying kind of easier. And cyberbullying affects all races. It's not really pertaining to one group. And cyberbullying victims are more likely to have a low self-esteem and consider suicide because, I don't know, being told that no one likes you is kind of drops how you feel about yourself.
Top okay.
Sorry?
Let me know what you think. Let's go. Let's fight.
We don't want that. Well, Dad, clearly you're concerned. I think you understand a little something about other stakeholders, although you certainly present one side. I think you made a solid case. I want to come back to something Deidre said. You said that without the law, it would just be like tattletaling, and the person who's being cyberbullied would fear the person who was doing the bullying. Is that correct?
Yeah, because if they aren't being punished for it, they'll just hate them even more, kind of, and then they could keep getting bullied worse. They told them.
Okay. Could lead to more cyberbullying, more bullying, any number of things that it could lead to. I'm not going to ask you about what it could lead to. I'm just going to ask you more about the social ramifications of having the law or not having the law. You say without the law, bully is very upset and bully, goes after the person who tattletaled on them, right? Do you think that the bully would be more upset or less upset if they were not tattletaled on and there's no law? But if I do decide to vote in favor of passing this law, do you think that the bully, the person who harmed the other, do you think they'd be more upset or less upset if now they weren't just tattletaled on, but if they were actually reported to police, charged, and possibly convicted, and if 18 or older, now they've got something that's attached to their criminal record for the rest of their life? Do you think that that bully would be more upset or less upset than being tattletaled on with no law?
They would be like more upset, but because they suffer consequences then, and then like because they're a criminal, and I guess they would realize what they've done. But if someone just told on them and they don't get punished at all, they still don't realize the severity of how they like bullied someone.
Okay. But what about the social ramifications of criminalizing cyberbullying? And like I said, charging, that person has their day in court, charging them under the cyberbullying law, them having their day in court, and if eventually they are convicted, what if, say, this isn't an adult, what if, say, this is someone in high school, okay, so like 17 or under. What if, because it seems like a lot of kids don't think cyberbullying is a big deal, whether it's harmless or it's just part of life, is getting made fun of electronically or in any way. But what if someone is charged and convicted of cyberbullying? And the great majority of kids in the school don't think that what that person said or did online is wrong. But we have this law that criminalizes it. And if this person is charged under it for something that the kids deem harmless, maybe not necessarily nice, but not necessarily nice, but not necessarily something that this kid needs to be charged and possibly fined or put on probation for, or possibly go to juvenile detention center for. What if they don't think it's severe enough? What could be the social ramifications then? If a group of friends saw their friend charged and convicted with cyberbullying, and that person went to a juvenile detention center, or was fined, or fill in the blank, if there was some penalty attached to what they did because now there is a law, couldn't you see the group of friends harboring a little bit of angst toward that person who initially was the victim?
Yeah, but then they would kind of stop doing it because then they don't want to get caught for it.
So whether a group of kids is very intentional and very deliberate about their making fun of someone or mocking someone, or whether it's just something that they think and don't act on, I mean, that doesn't pose a problem for you. I mean, isn't the kid going to be like socially aware enough to know that like people really don't like them? And isn't that one of the potential consequences of criminalizing it?
Yeah, but in the long run, it would be better.
Why? Come back to one of the initial points. It's your thought that you think this could act as a deterrent, it could prevent other kids from cyberbullying. Okay. So initially you sounded pretty fired up about this, pretty passionate. Do you think this law goes far enough? Are you happy with the law as is?
I think it more depends on the severity of the case. I think with a law like this, there should be like kind of how it is. I'm not necessarily relating it to murder, but I'm saying how there's first degree, second degree, third degree, where there could be different severe cases. So maybe like a lower case of cyberbullying where there was threats online or something like that. That could be like a first thing, and that could be like a fine or probation, kind of like a lesser penalty, but if the cyberbullying goes far enough to where the kid hurts himself or the kid is doing something, because the cyberbullying is so like non-stop, just constant cyberbullying on this person, you know, like be like a second degree, or you know, and that could be more of maybe, you know, there's a trial, there's a fine, and there's also maybe juvenile detention.
Okay.
So I mean, I really think it more depends on the severity of the case, because I'm sure there are some cyberbullying instances where it's, you know, throwing a couple bad words at each other, you know, but that's what happens. Kids do that. But
So in this case, do you think Chris and Naomi should be held responsible for what they did to your daughter?
absolutely, because Chris physically threatened my daughter online.
Okay, but we can get him under a different law. Certainly you can't act violently toward another.
But the whole reason was that it was online, so it technically is cyberbullying online, because cyberbullying is bullying that happens on an online website, which is what happened here. So those things it happened on an online website, therefore it should be like under the case of cyberbullying.
Give a hand to Dad. Give a hand to Mr. Brown.